Hello everyone, welcome to a Alternate Future episode 6. This is had a quiet break since I last did this. So let's continue with this war, I guess. With the nukes hitting down here, Russia did end up pushing to here. However, as the countries do become more stable over time, they do manage to start pushing back the Russians. That's too big. There. With the Italians starting the first offensive down here, pushing up around the Alps and down the coast, the Adriatic coast, taking back these areas. Let me turn on the capitals. For some reason I don't have them on. Yeah, I forgot to sort out the capitals. Let's keep on major cities. With them starting east, they head towards the Serbian capital, which, is down. Germany then starts to cut through the Italian offensive by retaking some of their land, pushing slightly into Poland, and fully or nearly kicking out the Austrians. Up here in the north, Up here in the north, we have the Finnish and, the Nordics, I think it is, Nordics pushing Iraq, taking that city there. I probably need to learn it. But anyway, they take it. Trying to take the peninsula up here, as they do cut it off. Followed with the navies, or the combined navies of Europe, retaking Crete and taking back Cyprus and invading northern Cyprus, starting to threaten the Turkish. Around the Chinese front, which is still going well, the Chinese continue to blitz, pushing up to this lake, like that, and doing the same up here. Let me get rid of map up. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be useful. I thought I was on running between these lakes. They continue. It would help if I changed the right layer. Just checking I didn't change anything. Anyway, they continue down this, following this coast, pushing around old Turkmenistan and Kazakhstan, as the Chinese front just kind of continues without being stopped. Especially seen in the west, with China fully taking the island of Sakhalin, I think it is. But anyway, they fully take it and nearly kick the Russians out of Outer Manchuria. Anyway, back over in Europe, we have Canadian troops starting to arrive. Oh wait, I've got this front up here. We have Canadian troops starting to arrive, pushing back the Russians slightly, but not really much, as it's kind of a barren wasteland up there. Anyway, as Canadian troops do reach Europe as well, they help Germany, pushing Austria fully out of their territory, and starting to re-push into Czechia. They also start to push, re-liberating Austria, taking Vienna, and pushing down to take the Croatian capital, which I believe is also there. As these up here is happening, we have the joint navies also taking back this island of Greece, and a few minor islands throughout the, don't know what that sea is called. Then we have, not really a surprising though joining, we have Israel joining. You can probably guess why. Anyway, with Israel's surprise attack, I would say, they push up quickly, taking these two major cities, eventually taking that one. However, as they get to here, the Turkish military does arrive and start to push them back, in fact. And I need to tune down the tolerance. There we go. We have them pushing back down to there, where the front line gets stalemated. I realised I got the wrong colour. There we go. We have the front in Poland continuing, reliberating the new capital, as Warsaw is behind Soviet lines. As pretty much most of the taken control of Poland and Czechia is liberated. Back over in Central Asia, China is slowing down a bit, as they really don't see a point of expanding further, as they know Russia is going to collapse. Feeling tensions starting to rise around this area, which is not a good sign. They do continue out of Manchuria, eventually taking this land before also stopping around here. They also do tell the Japanese to, if they want to freely take these islands, if I get the right colour, which they just do. They just go take them. And Russia don't really declare on Japan for this, as they have much bigger fish to fry. If they win, they can probably declare, but looking very unlikely. However, the push to the Hungarian capital is started as Budapest falls, followed later by the capital of Serbia. As the front lines start to connect, forming like a front up here, they continue to expand out, trying to liberate the puppet up here of Romania. Romania. As several landings do start to arrive around Greece and Turkey. Like so. Eventually leading to Turkey becoming extremely unstable, and pretty much Russian trade being cut off to the Mediterranean as Allied fleets start to kind of enforce this area. This is seen with most islands in the area becoming under their control. And then they also persuade Egypt to cut off the Suez, which they do. Also realised I forgot what happened down here. Anyway, as the front line continues to push, the entire of Neo-Yugoslavia falls, as Greece is reinstated, leading to minor uprisings in Bulgaria and Romania. Well, the Romanians and Bulgarians rebelling as they meet up with the Allied armies, as Turkey loses the Bosphorus. Then I'd pronounce it Istanbul, then, I guess. As the southern part of Romania is fully liberated, it leads to the end of, the Neo-Hungarian Empire, as they fully surrender, leading to all forces within Czechia falling, leading to a push kicking out the Polish occupation forces, and starting to push into old Polish lands, like so. Up in the north, we have the Nordics continuing, as they totally take this peninsula, and continue pushing down, reliberating the north of Estonia. Like kind of all of Estonia, but still. China moves a bit, making it so they could secure their front line a bit more, but not really much. Same as over here, kind of just buffing out around the border to ensure no Russian attacks can really reach them. They do start to push up towards this railway, or this major city, which is near the Trans-Siberian Railway, but they don't really try to enforce it, as Russian troops are very limited in the Chinese areas. They probably realised they didn't have the chance. Anyway, troops fully liberate Romania, pushing into Old Moldova and Ukraine, leading to areas in Ukraine, areas throughout the Neo-Russian Empire, rebelling away, such as Ukraine, Belarus, and bits of Lithuania and Latvia. This then leads to the end of the Baltics, as the Allied armies unite to send as much aid as they can, leading to all of them being liberated. However, in the meantime, Russian troops do manage to kick Belarus out of one major city and nearly kill them. Same in Ukraine. However, they don't really kick them out of the major city. They kind of pushed them around Kiev, where they do manage to hold out for now. However, Allied forces do eventually reach Belarus, aiding them to retake some of their land and eventually retake the major city. Russia's collapse is kind of shown to everyone at this point, as the front lines, the troops are kind of just walking through them. Other and around major cities where they do have a bit of resistance. But other than that, it's mostly just walking. However, in Turkey, it is a different story, with a lot of Turkey's army managing to push out the landings. However, they do fail over here, as Allied forces do continue to flit around the Black Sea, eventually taking their capital, and pretty much retaking all of the land, leading to Israel also managing to take more land. Azerbaijan kind of just decides to lead the war. Same with Turkey surrendering, conditionally surrendering, leaving Russia alone. However, Russia kind of collapses as Putin is taken out of government and kind of killed. This leaves a massive power gap within Russia, which is not a good thing. However, in the meantime, we have Allied forces. Would help to pick the right colour. We have Allied forces just blitzing as much land as they can to get the best peace deal with the new government as they possibly could, trying to liberate as much land as they can before they get to around this, and stop blitzing basically towards every major city, eventually reaching Moscow. However, at this point, a new government kind of appears and agrees to peace with the Allied countries and China. Anyway, I'm going to do the peace treaty. I'm also going to pretend Canada also liberated all of this. We're also going to do the peace treaty then, and I will see you after it's done. As the peace treaty is signed, this is kind of what is done. With most of the invaded countries of the past being released, with Poland regaining their east, and Lithuania actually getting Kaliningrad. So, yeah. And other minor changes being with Moldova being annexed into Romania, including this little strip of Ukrainian land, and North Macedonia being split between the powers, these three guys here, and I forgot the name of this one, Macedonia, possibly, I don't know. Anyway, with this guy being annexed into Albania, and Serbia and Hungary being heavily punished with their neighbours annexing the surrounding, being annexed, being split, that's it. Austria being annexed into Germany willingly, by the way, there was a vote. Finland getting some, Russian land up here. A Caucasus and country being formed down here. The Middle East, Central Asia is a little strange, so we'll head over to China for now, where China annexes these guys, including the island of Sakhalin, and Japan annexing the islands they took during the war. In the Middle East, there is a kind of thing. Turkmenistan is fully released. Kazakhstan is fully released, including these two guys. However, the Uzbekistani government did not want to work with the Chinese government, so they got politicians. And Iran gets quite a lot of their old territory back, a lot of it that Pakistan took, and the western bit, of course. Not western. Yeah, it's western. And they actually got some bit of Afghanistan, Afghani land as like a sort of a payment, which does make them lean towards China, as they recommended this idea. Pakistan annexes most of Afghanistan as well. And for last, we have Israel, who just gets more land, more than they want. This does then also lead to the alliance map, which is outdated. Firstly, non-war related, Jordan joins the bloody Egyptian alliance due to fearing Israelite expansion. The Russian alliance does kind of live on inside the Turks and Azerbaijanis, as they kind of just left it, but it's kind of the different alliance now, if you get my gist. Anyway, firstly, we'll talk about the Western Alliance. With all of the released countries around here joining it, including the Caucasus country. Same as over here, all of the countries over here kind of joined the Chinese alliance, which kind of gives hints to who decided to let them through. Other than that, we have the Russian government being kind of replaced, but Russia is extremely unstable, which might lead to a civil war later on. Anyway, to Africa, where we haven't been for a while. With the alliance down here, I don't know, I turned it off, being expanded a bit, with a new country joining. That country is the Dominican Republic. Anyway, a new alliance is also formed in the east between these guys. Ethiopia kind of trying to lean it towards an anti-Egyptian alliance, but also these guys joining in fears of, Congolese expansion. Also, another thing happens. The English state declares themselves the new British Empire. I might have hinted in the last episode, like the thumbnail, that Canada is a British puppet. Oh yeah, I also forgot to show you this. New England joins the European Alliance. Anyway, Canada is a British puppet. South Africa is a direct British territory, I believe. Australia and New Zealand are firstly united and also made into a British puppet. This does not go well. With Britain being kicked out of the alliance. Yeah, who expected that? Canada, they should have probably did this. Why are they? What? Oh, I forgot to. I'll sort that out another day. Yeah, I'll sort that out later. With Britain being kicked out of the alliance, including all of their puppet states. This is not good. With Britain kind of being starting to work more with the Chinese Federation. I might call it that. Anyway, let's talk about the countries that got nuked. With the main government of these countries being mostly obliterated, this does lead to mass civil unrest. Which that is the alliance layer I'm on. Sorry about that. Let me just check I didn't do anything yet. With these countries becoming very unstable. Firstly, this is shown with French Guiana breaking away, then the British just moving in, just taking control. So we have big British Guiana. Anyway, other than that, we have these countries becoming extremely unstable. This is shown when the Austrians decide it's probably better to be alone and break away. Kind of like this. Taking all Austrian land, including in Italy, where parts of old... Let me do this little there. With Austria breaking away like this, maybe? Yeah, that looks better. With Austria breaking away first, followed by Sicily. That then leads to areas around Sicily rebelling and requesting to join Sicily. Followed by Sardinia also joining Sicily. And then, can't remember the island's name, but they also joined Sicily. Oh wait, I was going to do the Pope, but he's kind of dead. No, random. Anyway, let's ignore that. This is not helped with when Normandy mysteriously breaks away. Not looking at anyone in particular, but I feel like I might be used with foreign aid. This kind of this sort of rebellion takes over Brittany and this major city down here. The alliance members decide to stay out. However, some members do decide to get involved, such as Belgium, who moves in and occupies this area of France, like with permission of the French government, of course, until the French government is kind of stabilised. I don't know why I coloured them in, but that's Belgium occupied. Poland requests to do the same thing, also asking if they can help repair Berlin, which is accepted with Poland occupying this. Well, they're not really occupying, they're just kind of moving their troops in and just helping the government, remaining parts of government hold out. This is worse when Italy kind of falls into a new regime. That's not good, is it? Anyway, the French army finally is reorganised and set up. Well, reorganised. And then starts to invade this very British orientated breakaway state, as they manage to kick them out. As the French government kind of repairs itself, the Belgians kind of leave, leading the French to the country can break out of this cycle. Austria and Germany kind of agree to sort things out. However, before they can, Bavaria breaks away. That's not a good thing. This is shown even worse when Hanover breaks away. This is not from the British, I just couldn't be bothered to get a new colour. Germany decides to just ask other nations to help. The French do actually send aid, which does lead to the Hanover rejoining Germany. But Bavaria wants independence still. So I'm going to do a quick treaty of Germany and a false treaty upon Italy, as they really don't really exist anymore. In the treaty, we have this island being forcibly returned to France, the Kingdom of Sicily, the Republic of Two Sicilies being formed, Fascist Italy, yes, fascist, returning, which is probably not a good thing, but no one really cares right now. Austria kind of getting these kind of borders, with them getting a chunk of Italy. This is a course of, what do they call it? Bavaria claims its territory, basically. But since the Schengen zone exists, and I've also realised Austria is not done, as the Schengen zone exists, it doesn't really cause much problems, as the Bavarians do kind of keep their capital within, like, Munich, and the Austrians don't really mind, so at least they're peaceful about it. Polish troops do leave Germany, however, Germany is kept an eye on to ensure no more rebellions, so we don't have another breakaway state. I think that is it for Europe. With us returning to Africa, South Africa to the Pacific, with the British declaring, well, the British within South Africa. It would help if I didn't have that on. Declaring war on Namibia, maybe, and Botswana. And since it isn't really a problem from the capitals down here, we'll turn them on. I don't think Botswana's having their capital for long. Anyway, British troops start to flood into Botswana, quickly taking their capital. Same for Mozambique, I think it is actually, as they flood up the coast. However, as the armies of these two African nations start to react, they do slow down a tiny bit, until both armies are exhausted and they continue to go fast. Botswana eventually surrenders, leading to Namibia thinking about surrender, especially more when their government is captured and executed publicly, leading to the citizens deciding to surrender and full annexation. I'll probably do this on camera. I'll quickly describe or explain. The British kind of annex them both, removing both their identities and making them a sort of part of the acts, setting up a South African puppet state government kind of thing. So it isn't really from London. Well, anyway, they do then also set claims out to the entire of the old British Empire, well, in Africa anyway, which is not a good thing for most African countries. Which do lead to a few more joining alliances. So alliances, which means to right there. Mainly just these two guys. Oh, actually, Botswana isn't part of it. Anyway, some more joining onto the Egyptian alliance. Due to fear of the Orange Team expansion, Chad, the Central African Republic, and the remains of possibly Tanzania, if I'm right, joining the Egyptian alliance to kind of bypass Nigerian expansion for starters. Qatar also joins it to kind of kick away Turkish expansion. Poor India, surrounded by China. I don't think that's going to end well. Continuing on, we have China declaring war, not themselves. Okay, so what health am I on the right there? Declaring war on Mongolia. You might have seen this coming, as they are kind of resembling the old Chinese borders before the Civil War. Anyway, Chinese troops flood into Mongolia, especially since they had just been at war and kind of are ready for it. As Mongolia is probably going to be the same as Russia, pretty easy. As you can see by the fact that it's not really being held back at all. Mongolia eventually surrenders without their capital being taken, as they see it as a better way not to kind of be bullied. Mongolia is fully annexed, however, Mongolians do keep some autonomy within their region, as they surrender pretty quickly, which Beijing does like, kind of. Anyway, If you can see, China has a lot of land. Anyway, that is the end of this episode, so if you have enjoyed it, like and subscribe. And if you want to see more content like this, for example, any recommendations of events that could happen in this, please comment it down below. And I hope you have a nice day. Goodbye.